guys have not followed closely the most recent information, this video is going to be perfect for you, as I'm going to be covering all the big changes, retcons, the new plot lines that will be happening in Dragonflight. Everything from Titan lore changing completely to the time skip, changes to faction leadership, time travel, and a whole bunch of other things that you need to know before the expansion is out. So to sum everything up, what are the 10 big ways the lore is shifting in Dragonflight? I'd like to thank the Sandbox for sponsoring this video, and I'm also giving away 2 $10 Amazon gift cards, so stay tuned. The Sandbox is one of the largest multiplayer games where you can play with 300k plus players with over 200 of your favorite brands, including The Walking Dead, Snoop Dogg, Steve Aoki, and over 90 experiences available right now. One of my favorites is The Walking Dead, where you can work with Carl to rebuild Alexandria and fight a bunch of zombies. Best of all, there is a ton of user-generated content like escape rooms and dungeon crawlers. Season 3 is happening right now with only a few weeks left. They are giving away 1.5 million sand, with top prize being 30k. It's super simple to start. Use my link to download, sign up, connect to Google, Twitter, or Facebook. You can connect your crypto wallet, but the game is completely free regardless. Now, load into the alpha lobby and use the map on the website to join the various experiences and start completing quests. How can you win the Amazon gift cards? Download the game with my link, get to level 2, take a screenshot with Snoop Dogg, tag him, me, and the Sandbox team on Twitter, and I'll pick 2 winners in a month. Check out the Sandbox. Bad Guy Titans. This is really the biggest change on this list. If you want more detailed information, check out the previous 2 videos that I made, because there's a lot of stuff, but a lot of things have changed, and there is big foreshadowing for what is to come later. Almost all the information comes from discovered books in Alderaan, and we have everything from edicts of the main Titan Keeper Odin to letters between Loken and Tyr and a few other reports. Long story short, the big information was that it was confirmed that Galakrond was corrupted by Yogg-Saron, the old god. Titans then purify the waters that Yogg-Saron corrupted Galakrond through, and then use it in turn to corrupt the dragons and to turn them to their side. Then we have information about the Titans deleting history of the Black Empire, hiding truth about the first ones, and just making up history to favor themselves. Furthermore, we know that some Titan Forge rebelled, and that the Titan Keepers sent expedition after expedition to destroy them without success, meaning we might be finding out who these guys are soon. We also learned about a new dwarven race that is completely separate from the ones that we know, so all these things are just starting to set up the Titans as not really the good guys that we used to believe they were, and in my opinion, this is really going to be a huge part of the new story. Night Elves elude Malfurion. So, obviously, big spoilers here, but from data mine conversations, it looks like Malfurion will be sacrificing himself in Dragonflight in order to revive Ysera, who will definitely be coming back from Ardabil. Furthermore, big things are hinted to be happening with Elune, Tyrande, and the Night Elves. This isn't really that big of a new hint, as Blizzard literally told us with the Dragonflight announcement that this will be happening, but we have things from the beta that already kinda reveal how the story may progress. Based on a Teldrassil's card customization that is present on a Night Elven Shaman, it is possible that a faction of Night Elves rebelled against Tyrande's rule and Elune, and they seem to be working directly with the Primalists. They're trying to get into the Emerald Dream and to accomplish some goal that is still unclear. Seeing that we know that the Titans sort of forcefully turn the dragons, this storyline could have some really interesting implications. Obviously, there are big hints for Night Elven renewal, possible planting of a new World 3 and the Green Dragonflight, but it is also highly possible that something will be happening with Night Elves that are not going along with Tyrande's plan. Time travel. Time travel is a really big thing in Dragonflight, and it might even be a huge chunk of new content as we know it. There are heavy hints that Morazon, the alternate version of Nozdormu, will be appearing in this expansion. Chromie is also playing a role. We are going through the various versions of Azeroth, even going as far as the Black Empire thousands and thousands of years ago. Right now, things are really hinting that this is just the start of this entire thing. Galakrond will be playing a role. It is entirely possible that time travel could be a setup for the final boss of the expansion, or it could also be a way for us to learn more about how Azeroth was ordered and all the secrets that were kept away from us. Regardless, you should keep an eye out for time travel, as this will be a big theme in Dragonflight. Time skip. This is one of the most well-known changes, but unless you didn't know, Blizzard 100% confirmed the time skip. 5 whole years have passed since the start of the Shadowlands, and 3 years have passed since 9.2.5 and the Shadowlands ending. So 3 years after Sylvanas' judgment and the retaking of Undercity. In that time, a surprising amount of things didn't happen, and Blizzard really limited the scope here, so we more than likely won't see any changes you would expect in 3 years that have passed. The only confirmed changes right now are that Anduin has been missing for 3 years, and that Trellian has been ruling for longer than Anduin pretty much at this point. Talisra and Lord Tamar got married. Some characters that used to be children will be adults and will be aged in the game to reflect this change. However, other than these points, we shouldn't expect to see all-encompassing changes to the world of Azeroth despite 3 years passing, which in my opinion is just really unfortunate. However, we might learn about new consequences of this time skip as the time goes by. Deathwing and the Draktyr. This is a big one, and it is going to be a pretty evident theme from the expansion that is obviously called the Dragonflight. With the introduction of the Draktyr as a new playable race, we are learning a lot more about how they were created and the actual origin story of Malfurion himself. Right now, there aren't any groundbreaking changes that completely retcon or change the lore, but we are learning about how Malfurion was viewed in the Isles, how he actually created the Draktyr, and how it was actually Deathwing that put them in stasis and hid them. Long story short, and spoilers of course, the Primal Dragons also have their own versions of aspects that are similar in strength to the dragon aspects that all of you know of. A battle ensued where the dragon broke the weapon Deathwing used to control the Draktyr, and fearing that they would become unhinged and that he couldn't control them, they were put in stasis. Later, when Deathwing just got insane, blue dragons attempted to completely destroy them, but the entirety of the Dragon Isles was put in stasis as well. Other than this, Vrathian and other black dragons are vying to become a new black dragon aspect, and there is a lot of lore in regards to Malfurion and his transition into Deathwing. So expect a ton of Black Dragonflight lore changes and also old god stuff. First ones. Shadowlands' storyline seems to be continuing full steam ahead. Turns out Blizzard didn't really go with what a lot of community asked for when they said that we should just forget Shadowlands and hope that it didn't even happen, and instead, Blizzard decided to just double down on it. This may actually be a good thing, as maybe with the new lore in Dragonflight, the storyline of Shadowlands might start to make some sense. Long story short, this ties into the Titan documents we had previously discovered. Essentially, the main Titan Keeper Odin admits that the first ones are the true progenitors and that they created the many works of wonder on Azeroth. The Titans only came in and ordered things, but according to Odin, nothing can exist unless there is order, which is obviously order for his dogma. Odin also told us to not tell anything about the first ones to the mortal races and to keep their existence a secret and to paint the Titans as the actual gods. This, at the moment, are obviously very early hints, but it is heavily foreshadowing that the Shadowlands storyline is continuing full steam ahead. We also learned that the first ones gave some sort of power to the Titans in Zereth Orders, so we may be getting a new Zereth Mortis patch in Dragonflight, and all things right now are hinting that the first ones and the entire cosmological storyline that all of you know of is going to be a critical part of the culmination in Dragonflight. Dragon aspects. Dragon aspect lore is really changing. It seems like Blizzard might even be completely retconning that entire Age of Mortals now begins Cataclysm ending, as some aspects in the new series literally have color in the eyes that they apparently lost. While this could mean nothing, the entire lore surrounding the dragon aspects is without a doubt changing. The Age of Mortals seems to have been rather short-lived. We are learning that the dragon aspects are not even that unifying for all the dragons, and that they essentially are just Titan-affiliated dragons. The Primalists also have their own version of the aspects that are similar in power. Furthermore, we learned that the Titans had corrupted, I guess we can say corrupted, the dragons, so who even knows how benevolent the aspects even are, and whether they're just minions in a similar manner to the Titan Forge. They might even have to break this Titan programming in the new expansion, so big things will be happening with the dragon aspects in Dragonflight. Gilneas. Gilneas has been up in the air for well over a decade at this point, but at the end of Shadowlands, things finally started moving, at least in some sort of a direction. This isn't actually so much of a Dragonflight expansion lore change, but it is a general World of Warcraft lore change. At the end of Shadowlands, there was a letter where Kalia Menetel confirmed to commit herself to withdrawing Forsaken troops from Gilneas, and she made that promise to Ken, and she said it would take some time. Well, a time skip happened and 3 years had passed. Now, this isn't just my speculation, there is an actual official Blizzard Blue post where they discussed the time skip and they said that they want big events to happen in game so we can play through them as questlines. For example, the retaking of Undercity that we did in 9.2.5. Then they said they are saving up events like Gilneas for these future scenarios, meaning that a revamp won't be happening overnight, like as soon as the expansion is out. This, in my opinion, is essentially a half confirmation that the Alliance may get a hold on Gilneas quite soon and that we may be getting a new city. Whether it will happen in Dragonflight, we don't really know, but more than certainly further hints will be happening during this expansion. Centaur. This isn't really a significant lore change by any means, but it does show that Blizzard is really doubling down on making the Chronicle obsolete. As you may remember, the Centaur by the Chronicle were created not that long ago in the grand scale of things by an unholy union between an elemental and a son of scenarios. Because of this, the really hateful and sort of cursed children were born that became known as the Centaur that just waged war and caused chaos and attacked everyone. This, at the time, was like the opposite to the Dryads that were noble and all about protecting nature and balance. Well, turns out in Dragonflight there are other Centaur that are called Centaur that have nothing to do with this original storyline, that have been around for thousands and thousands of years longer. Some are friendly to us, some are not. Now, Blizzard promised to make a specific story for them and how they're unrelated to the Centaur that we know, but to me this is an obvious retcon to old lore, as while they may be a new unrelated race, they still kinda made that storyline of their creation completely obsolete. Leadership. This is a continuation of what was started in Shadowlands, but it is hinted that big things will be happening with both the Horde and the Alliance, but especially the Alliance, which really should be the case at this point, as the Horde has been in just civil strife time and time again for like, what, a decade at this point. With the time skip, it has been confirmed that Anduin has been missing in action for years. Last time we had seen him, he was talking to Sylvanas as she was serving her punishments in the Maw. We know the Alliance tried finding him, but it led to nowhere. There are no real actual leads as to what Anduin is actually doing. In that time, Trevelyan has been leading the Alliance for years at this point, and at this point as well, essentially longer than Anduin has been king. We don't really know what Anduin is up to, but it is hinted that he's been up to something quite big and will be possibly returning soon. With that said, there is a lot of potential with leadership of Trevelyan, the return of Anduin, and whether the Alliance will continue to be a kingdom ruled by the Vryn family. Once again, don't forget to download Sandbox using my link down below in order to win two $10 Amazon gift cards.